I was born in a culture obsessed with the high noon of life, the loudest achievements, the peak performance, and the bright lights. I was taught that anything less than on is failure. But nature doesn't stay at high noon. By the time I was 15, my high school transcript was my entire world. It was a one-page resume written in font-size 12 times New Roman. Second place at the state science fair, check. Interviewing the mayor, check. Debate club secretary, state student council, honors classes, 4.0 GPA, judo. From the outside, it looked like a mission, like a young woman who's going places. But on the inside, it felt like a survival tactic. And sooner or later, I had tied my self-worth to my performance. I was succeeding, but I was disappearing. This drive didn't appear out of nowhere, and it was a seed planted early. I was born in Japan, a culture that lives and breathes the spirit of ganbaru. It means doing one's best, but it carries a meaning that English, or any other language for that matter, can't quite capture. It means to stand firm, to endure the hardships, and to persist at almost any cost. This philosophy slowly turned my mindset into a shield. Growing up in Japan, I was a different one. I was chubby, I was self-conscious, and I spoke English. In a society that strives on fitting in, I felt like my physical presence was something that I could never fix, that there was something wrong with me, that I would never be like my classmates. I always felt like an outsider. But then I would get my test scores back. Teachers would pat me on my back with my good grades. And for a moment, all those comments and bullying that had been done against me slowly faded into the background. For a short while, I wasn't the chubby kid. I was a smart kid. That's when the spirit of ganbaru really turned into a shield rather than a philosophy. I focused heavily on grades, and I tried to find security within them, because I thought if I couldn't be the pretty girl at school or the cool local in Hawaii, then I would be the girl who did everything. I would be the girl with the 4.0. When I was 8 years old, I moved to the United States. And my search for security evolved even further. I remember being caught up in between two worlds. So to keep my sense of feeling Japanese alive, I would go back and attend Japanese middle school during the summers. To try to reconnect to my childhood, I talked to my friends, my old neighbors, and I'll never forget one of those moments during those summers. A childhood friend had looked at me, and I was tanned from the Hawaiian sun. She looked at me and she said, "You look like a burnt potato." Now, to you guys, it might sound like a joke, a small little comment that she made. And to her, it probably did as well. But to me, it was confirmation of my deepest fear, that no matter where I went, even if I went back to my own country, I would always be seen as different. I was always a bit too dark, a bit too chubby. I spoke more than one language. So I retreated to the only fortress that ever held up for me. My grades. I went back to the paper. By the time that I reached high school in Hawaii, I became a yes machine. I said yes to every volunteer hour, club, every leadership role, until my schedule was a mountain that I couldn't stop climbing. I remember my freshman year of high school, I had signed up for more than 10 extracurricular activities because I thought that if I stacked enough trophies and A's on top of each other, that no one would be able to see that burnt potato underneath. I was using my own resume as a mask, but the problem with masks is that you eventually lose the connection with the person underneath. Now, the breaking point didn't happen with a loud bang. It was a slow realization as I later moved on to Europe. I saw people, my friends, my family, they valued balance and rest as much as they did work. And that made me think, maybe that is another way to live. In nature, there's this moment of perfect equilibrium. And when I looked at my own life, I realized that it was an all lights, all day, all on, all performance. I didn't create time, and I was afraid of the dark, the rest, the reflection, the moments where I wasn't really achieving anything. I was just kind of existing. I believed that perfection meant always doing something, and therefore I was really afraid that if I stopped doing, I would stop being. But perfection and balance isn't about all of just that. It's also accepting a constantly changing definition of success. You don't always have to be at the peak. You can rest. You can take breaks. I believe that is what the in-between is. I believe the in-between is when we stop paralleling our self-worth to our performance, where we stop questioning ourselves, or we stop judging ourselves, and we just live in the moment. I have a challenge for you. Are you building a life? Or are you updating a resume for a ghost? Stop treating your self-worth like a finite source that you have to keep on earning every single day. Stop building fortresses out of paper and expecting them to keep us warm. Because the most important parts of who you are, the brightest parts of you, will never fit into a font size 12 times New Roman. Grades are static. They are dead. They are not forever, and they don't define you. Your stubborn resilience, your quiet kindness, and your messy curiosity, they are all too vibrant to fit into a single piece of paper. They are all too vibrant to be squished and pushed down. For a lot of my life, I believed that I had to be like a pristine sheet of paper. But now I realize that it can be touched by failure. It can be touched by hardships, and it can be touched by just struggle. I believe that I'm more like this kind of paper. An uncrumpled piece of paper will never be perfect. It will never be smooth. It will never be as pristine as it once was. And these folds and textures that it has will probably grow as your life goes on. But these textures and creases and folds are also what shows the map of where you've been. It shows your journey, and it shows how strong you are. When you fold a piece of paper, it's actually stronger in the folds. And I want you to connect this to just your life. As you endure more hardships, as you get through barriers, and as you go through more roadblocks, you'll get stronger, but you will also be a bit more crumpled, and that's okay. Also, for a long time, I believed that the definition of gambaru meant to endure until you disappear, to persist at almost any cost. But I now know that I was wrong, and the true definition of gambaru also must include doing what's best for your own soul, not just your transcript. Thank you.